Once upon a time, there was a bear, a bird, and a boy. Banjo-Kazooie was a huge part of my childhood. And even before that, I cut my teeth on Rare's games for the Super Nintendo. As much as I love Sonic and Mario, it's the Donkey Kong Country series that has always had a special place in my heart and soul. I've always associated Donkey Kong Country with incredible music, fantastic level design, and an amazing sense of completion. With Yooka Laylee and the Impossible Lair, creators Playtonic Games promised a return to that specific type of nostalgia, and they deliver with a near-perfect platformer that directly evokes games of the past and proves that Playtonic isn't just a one-hit wonder. This game is also tailor-made for completionists, with one challenge that is punishing to the extreme. Let's find out if this game lives up to its pedigree and also its name when I complete Yooka Laylee and the Impossible Lair.
Here comes a new challenger! Yes! Danger!
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of The Completionist, where we don't just beat the games, we complete them. Now, before we start, I know there's always those YouTube videos out there, mine do them a lot, where I have an announcement before the video starts, and it makes everyone mad and frustrated, but I just wanted to say thank you. We got nominated for a Streamy, which is the first time, I think in the history of the show, that we've been nominated for anything, and I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart and everyone here at the company. We're super stoked that, you know, you guys at home like the show enough to want to support us and feel like you've been heard and watching the show. And it's a really cool honor, and we're super stoked about it. I don't know exactly how the voting process starts or how it begins, but it definitely is through social media and through Twitter and Facebook and all that fun stuff. So if you want to vote for us for the Streamies, you totally can. We'll leave a link in the description box down below. And again, just thank you. It doesn't matter that we win. Doesn't matter that we lose. I'm stoked that, you know, you guys are supporting us, so thank you. Also, real quick, come to the live shows, thecompletionist.com/live. Get tickets, they're selling out. Come on to the live show. I promise you're gonna have a good time. Nostalgia is a hell of a drug. It feels like half of all video game marketing weaponizes games from the past. At the same time, I love revisiting stuff that I loved as a kid, so I guess you could say that I'm a part of the problem. I'm a part of why the marketing strategy works. I need to think about this one. Yooka Laylee and the Impossible Lair pays homage to 2D platformers of old, while also redefining what it means to make a game like this in a modern age. Impossible Lair takes place in the same universe as Yooka Laylee, and stars most of the same characters from the first game. Capital B is up on his bullshit again, trying to mind control all of the bees in the land with a special device called the Hive Mind. Chameleon Yooka and Bat Pal Laylee reluctantly agree to stop him after some cajoling from Queen Phoebe, and after getting their tails immediately handed to them after stepping foot into the Impossible Lair, the pair must explore a surprisingly in-depth overworld and make it through dozens of levels before taking down Capital B once and for all. Alright, so with this game, the ex-Rare employees at Playtonic Games set a different goal for themselves. Rather than go to the Banjo-Tooie route and make a direct sequel, the developers went into a different direction. They proved in my eyes that they could develop a spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie. But what would happen if they went further back in time and deeper into Rare's storied history? What if they put the same amount of effort into recreating the experience of playing a Donkey Kong Country game with the world of Yooka Laylee? The result is Yooka Laylee and the Impossible Lair, a near-perfect recreation of what it's like to experience a DKC in the modern day. Everything I love is here. Absolutely gorgeous music by David Wise, Grant Kirkhope, and their sound team, inventive level design, and of course, secrets and collectibles out the wazoo. I don't mean this facetiously, but I honestly think this game on some level was made just for me. The tutorial level does a great job of showing how Yooka Laylee's distinct moveset from the first game translate into 2D. In every level, the duo still jumps, tail whips, and rolls around. There are still tons of collectibles to find and quills to collect, and at the end of every level, the team frees a member of the B-Talion, with the ultimate goal being to restore the B-Talion to its full strength of 48 and put Capital B back in his place by assaulting the titular Impossible Lair. And that lair is technically the first level in the game, right after the tutorial. I didn't expect that from the very moment I started the game that I could attempt to beat the game. It's kind of a speedrunner's dream. Of course, the final level is a lot more manageable if you spent the time unlocking the other levels, saving the bees, and honing your skills. But the Impossible Lair was always right there, taunting me. The Impossible Lair takes some of the best parts of the original Yooka Laylee and adapts them to a 2D platformer environment. There are still hundreds of collectibles and secrets in each of the 20 intricately designed levels. On top of that, every level has a variant, a B-side with totally different gameplay elements and more collectibles to find. The equipable tonics return too, which essentially act as modifiers, both visually and mechanically. It's a genuine treat to see all of the best parts of Yooka Laylee remixed into a completely different type of game. I love that every level had an alternative. This is the kind of game that could easily be a forever game. It's something to return to over and over and over again, whether you have more memories for this type of game or not. There's always something new to find. Playing Yooka Laylee in the Impossible Lair is like wrapping up in a warm blankie of nostalgia before getting metaphorically smacked over the head with a folding chair when you try to actually complete it. The legacy of Yooka Laylee will always be tied in with what it promised to deliver. Yooka Laylee was Playtonic's answer to what happens if you get a bunch of former Rare developers to return to a style of game they perfected years after they stopped being the most popular type of game. The Impossible Lair takes the same premise, but for Donkey Kong Country type platformers. Yooka Laylee and the Impossible Lair is a triumphant return to the gameplay of Rare platformers of the past, with modern tweaks and improvements that fulfill the promise of a modern version of those games. In a lot of ways, the first Yooka Laylee was a test for Playtonic. Could the former Rare developers deliver on their promise with their Kickstarter-funded game? And for me, the answer was an unequivocal yes. I loved Yooka Laylee, even though the discourse around the game grew to be kind of toxic. Sometimes, what people expect can get in the way of what is actually being presented to them. And to some extent, I think that's what happened with Yooka Laylee. Playtonic wanted to deliver a spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie with Yooka, but a lot of people who played the game expected something other than what they got, and I loved what I played. From the get-go, Impossible Lair feels like the best possible version of a modern take of a Donkey Kong Country game. Yes, I know, Tropical Freeze came out not too long ago, but the Impossible Lair feels more like a direct callback to the old 2D platformer style. Even before I entered a level, I was totally charmed by the game. The overworld is also surprisingly packed with things to do, which feels like a modern innovation. All over the overworld, there are secret paths and hidden collectibles tantalizingly out of reach. There's tons of stuff to explore and puzzles to solve, and I was taken aback at how much fun I had wringing every secret out of the overworld. It gave me a sense of adventure, like there was always something more to explore. The music in Yooka Laylee and the Impossible Lair alone takes me right back to the past and puts a huge smile on my face. David Wise's themes and compositions are gorgeous here and have a distinct sound and feel. The same goes for the overworld music by Grant Kirkhope. These two pulled out all the stops for the tracks in this game with an awesome sound team behind them. The music is dynamic and evocative and feels transported from the past. It's incredibly nostalgic, and I mean that as a huge compliment. It's like finding out that your favorite band that broke up a long time ago had a fully produced album that just never got released, and it finally came out of the blue. These kinds of games demand returning to levels over and over again to plumb them for secrets and collectibles, and having good music that never gets old is vital to that experience. I'm glad to say that Kirkhope and Wise deliver again in Yooka Laylee and the Impossible Lair. Any classic Rare game lives or dies by its levels. The gameplay means nothing if the levels aren't fun to play and then replay again. Playtonic knew this and took the lesson to heart. Overall, the level design in Yooka Laylee and the Impossible Lair is incredible, and the game feels tight to play and explore. I was really satisfied with the amount of variety on display. There are platforming staples like ice levels, but also really unique industrial type areas. Each level has something unique to offer and feels really dense and packed with possibility. I had to explore every inch of every level because, you know, it's kind of what I do, but I also did it because I loved it. This process really appealed to the kid in me. When it comes to the remixed versions of each level, you can't access these variations until you use the overworld to impact the physical stage. For example, letting the tide roll into the sandcastle stage so that the stage becomes an underwater level, or freezing Nimbus up in an area so the stage turns icy in the terrain. This seems simple, but it's kind of inventive and gives each level a whole new identity and really expands the gameplay. It's not even a matter of you can't go into this one path you could in the other stage. It's as if other parts of the stage just appeared out of nowhere. Enemy types are different. The terrain affects the enemies differently. Different hazards appear. The music's different. The stage transforms into its own new identity, and each stage takes a big risk changing what came before it. There are even secret exits in some levels, which pull Yooka and Laylee out of the level and dump them back into the overworld in a previously unreachable location. These secret exits are extremely difficult to find, but are always satisfying to encounter because it means you followed your instincts to where a secret could be, and they are absolutely necessary for exploring all of the overworld. As for the collectibles themselves, several of them feel like a direct callback to DKC. Quills are like the bananas, abundant throughout every level and easy to find. The 5 secret Twit coins in each level remind me of the Kong coins from the more recent DKCR games, but those have a more direct effect on the overworld. See, Trouser the Snake is back in Yooka Laylee the Impossible Lair, and you have to pay him with Twit coins in order to expand the overworld. Not only do you expand the overworld, but it adds more levels to your repertoire of stages to play. I think that's the main difference I experienced in this modern iteration. Finding collectibles felt immediately impactful and useful. And to me, this is the most apparent in finding and unlocking different tonics. There are way more tonics to find in this game than there was in the first game, and they're handled pretty differently too. These tonics run the gamut from amazing cosmetic changes to giving Laylee giant ears so she can tell when the player is near a secret area. I was able to equip up to 3 tonics at a time, and there is a 4th unlockable one as well. Most tonics have a cost in the form of a negative quill multiplier, but for me, the trade-off was almost always worth it. And most of the tonics really apply to the visuals in the game. Have you ever wanted to go back to the days where you played on a horrible Game Boy screen? You can do that. Resolution and color and all. Do you want to play the game like a film? There are tons of crazy ways to modify your experience with Yooka Laylee and the Impossible Lair. I loved how the tonic system also helped me customize my own gameplay experiences. There's even a tonic that reduces the number of checkpoints in a level, making the stages much more difficult. A lot of the time, people say they want the modern version of a thing. They don't actually think through what that actually means. Playtonic Games went above and beyond to incorporate a ton of modern systems in this game that makes the whole experience of playing it feel smooth all the way through. Checkpoints are generous in the levels, and game overs are done away with. It's the perfect throwback. All the fuzzy feelings that I felt way back when, with all the modern conveniences that have made games great from the last several years. Now, there is some room for improvement here. There are some incredible levels, don't get me wrong, but they're occasionally inconsistent. There were definitely 1 or 2 levels that I didn't want to dive back into right away if I didn't get all the secret coins on my first go. There were a couple that I felt were a little more on the boring side, but then again, most of them were truly impressive with their difficulty and unique ideas. So while I thought that a lot of levels exceeded their predecessors, I felt a few could learn some lessons from the old timers. Yooka Laylee and the Impossible Lair feels laser focused. The game is incredibly fun and has all the best elements of a Donkey Kong Country platformer brought into the modern day. The overworld impressed me with its depth, and I loved exploring it to the fullest. The game is gorgeous to look at, soothing to listen to, and it's awesome to play. The collectibles are worth it, and the level design gets more and more interesting as the game goes on. But then, there's the game's namesake. Every week on the show, I make you guys a promise. I complete a game fully, dot every I, cross every T. It falls on me, and by extension my team, to do everything in our power to hold up our end of the bargain in fulfilling that promise of producing an awesome show. This week, I almost didn't make that promise happen. The Impossible Lair part of Yooka Laylee and the Impossible Lair is actually almost impossible. It nearly broke me. The Impossible Lair is a gauntlet. To get through it, I had to play it as perfectly as I could. And here's the deal, when it comes to rare platformers, most of them are pretty easy in the endgame. Boss fights are kinda complicated for the first time through. Overall, an enjoyable and a great learning experience. This all kinda sounds like I'm coming off as a little academic here. So let me cut to the chase. The Impossible Lair is outrageously difficult. Honestly, it's one of the worst levels I have ever played in my entire life. You're meant to attempt the Impossible Lair after freeing every member of the battalion so that Yooka and Laylee have enough of a fighting chance. Each of the 48 bees you've saved during the game is an extra hit point, which sounds like a lot, right? But honestly, it's so damn hard that even the extra hits aren't as helpful as you might think. It took me nearly 21 attempts to make it through the Impossible Lair, and that, my friends, was just the normal playthrough. Are you all ready for this? Are you all ready for the big occasion, the real challenge of the Impossible Lair? So if you pre-ordered the game or you got the DLC packs, you'll notice there are 66 tonics in the game. If you complete the game, getting all the trophies and everything aside, you'll get 65 tonics. You'll be missing one tonic, and it's not on the Overworld. This tonic is the Golden Tonic, and in order to get the Golden Tonic, you must defeat the Impossible Lair from the very start of the game on a brand new game save. No upgrades, no tricks, just pure, unfiltered skill and pitch perfect execution. Now, this is the best and the worst kind of challenge. On one hand, this feels like something that I've been gearing up for my entire life. One perfect run is all I need. I am down for the challenge. I am ready. However, there are a couple factors that made doing this perfect run extremely frustrating outside of beating the whole level that's about 20 minutes long in one go. Since probably 99.99% of players will die when going through the Impossible Lair for the very first time, the game is designed around that, meaning that the game will kick Yooka and Laylee out to the Overworld. So at the time of this recording, for me to do this perfect run, it had to be from a clean, brand new game save. So every time I died in the Impossible Lair, I'd have to exit the game, delete the save file, and start over, and then go through the entire tutorial section all over again, which only made the stakes even higher because the amount of time to fire everything back up again started to really add up. This aspect was definitely a drag. On one hand, I get it. It's not Yooka Laylee and the nice picnic lunch at the park. But for as unreasonably difficult as this challenge is, I wish I was able to attempt it in a more efficient way. Now, I spoke to the devs about this, and they think they're gonna try and patch something in later on. So if you want to attempt the Impossible Lair from the very start, you can do so without having to go through the whole rigmarole like I did. Which, hey, great. Any chance I can get dozens of hours patched back into my life? Anyone? All right, so for the most part, I loved collecting and unlocking things in Yooka Laylee and the Impossible Lair. In this game, exploration is so satisfying on its own that anything else really feels like a bonus. There are so many boxes to check and collectibles to find, and getting them all feels incredibly satisfying. The tonics are awesome, and I thought it was smart that I had to purchase them with quills that I had earned in addition to unlocking them. Even more incentive to go back to my favorite levels and find more currency. I loved that finding and spending all the secret coins gave me even more levels to play through. The overworld feels amazing to explore, and I derived a weird amount of satisfaction from defogging the map. The most difficult things to unlock in the game are, of course, the bonuses for making it through the Impossible Lair fight from the very start of the game. After more than 60 hours of attempts of doing this stupid level, I finally made it through, and here's what I found. There's a secret ending that shows Yooka and Laylee writing a story in a book from the first game, as if this game never happened. And from there, on every save file that you play going forward, you will have a little capital B secret medal plastered on the front of the screen, showing you that you've achieved the impossible. This medal also shows that I have access to the Golden Tonic, which made Yooka and Laylee glow gold. Now this seems like a paltry reward at first, but it also gives me a +1 point quill multiplier. This was incredibly helpful for gathering up the thousands of quills I needed to purchase for any remaining tonics I didn't have, so that was super helpful. Completing the Impossible Lair also had the existential bonus reward of making me appreciate the rest of the game even more, because after smashing up against the Impossible Lair for what felt like a million times, every other challenge felt like I was taking a relaxing break. When I completed Yooka Laylee in the Impossible Lair, there were 20 stages completed, with one variant on each for a total of 40, which I thought was an amazing way to see a level from a new perspective. 200 Twig coins found, which was always satisfying to come across, even if they were just used to pay off Trouser to reach the rest of the levels. 66 tonics found, my favorite of which was probably the extremely helpful secret detecting chimes. 80 hours of total playtime, with at least 62 of those hours being spent trying to make it through the Impossible Lair on one go. And one Impossible Lair conquered twice. Once as intended with all 48 members of the battalion, after 21 individual attempts, and once with a clean save file, with nearly 376 original attempts to beat it, which is easily one of the hardest things I have ever done in my entire career. Yooka Laylee in the Impossible Lair is another great game from Playtonic Games. They took a risk trying to reinvent the wheel again, and I think they knocked it out of the park even harder this time around. The game has everything I love about classic adventure platformers. It's a smart game with great level design and incredible music. The different tonics lets players experience the game however they want to once they're unlocked. And Completionists will have a blast finding all the secrets in the levels, and in the overworld too for that matter. To anyone who asks, I describe this game as near perfect. Near perfect. Because the Impossible Lair aspect of this game, while it is very cool and it is very, very well done in terms of execution, performance, and presentation, it is absolute bonkers to go full completionist on it. If you want to get that golden tonic, my friends, do not do it. You will go crazy. I spent more time on the first and last level of the game because I went crazy trying to beat it. When I finally did, I felt accomplished. Admittedly, it felt great. It was a masochistic relationship that I'm still not coming to terms with. I cannot recommend that anyone do what I did and go full 100% Gerard completionist on this game. It's easy to get all the achievements. It is not easy to get the golden tonic. So, with that in mind, guys, I give this game my completionist rating of finish it.
Finish it!
That's all the time we have for today, guys. So please, as always, let me know what you thought about today's episode somewhere on the internet. If you like the show, do me a favor, smack that like button, smack a comment down below, smack the bell for notifications. We do new videos on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Just do it. Trust me, you're gonna love it. I promise. The show is fun. You will enjoy the show. I enjoy the show. I make it, so I'm kind of biased, but I enjoy it, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I've enjoyed The Completionist, and I'll see you next week for another brand new episode. Bye-bye.